Dining out is a part of life, right? It's actually a really fun part of life, but a lot of women we counsel often share that it sets them off track and they're not really sure how to fit this, what can be a pretty common occurrence, into a healthy eating plan. So we're here to tell you that it absolutely can be done and you just need some tips and tricks. So stay tuned. Also, eating too much processed sugar. I'm Jane, I'm here with Stephanie, and we're the Nourishing Gurus, and we're on a mission to help women over 50 stop yo-yo dieting in a healthy, sustainable way and feel good in their bodies again. So we don't want you to feel like going out to eat is like a no-no, or it's going to ruin your diet, or that if you choose to go out, all you can order is steamed chicken and broccoli. That's not fun at all, and that's not a way to live, right? So with a few simple strategies, you can learn to fit dining out or takeout into a healthy eating plan and still stay on track with your goals. So today we're going to share 12 tips for how to do this. Just so you know, we do have another video and we'll link to it in the description below about what to actually order at various restaurants that kind of lean towards healthier options, but that are still really tasty. But this video today is more about general strategies that can apply really wherever you choose to eat. So let's dive into tip number 1. The first rule of thumb is just don't skip meals during the day before you eat out. A lot of women do this in order to save calories, almost like assuming they're going to be overeating later. So that mentally isn't even a great way to start to set yourself up, like thinking, oh, I'm really going to overeat. But secondly, it almost sets yourself up for doing that because you get so hungry that once the food comes, you're just less likely to be able to control your appetite. And bread basket comes, you're diving into the bread basket, you're salivating at the appetizers. So just really eat normally during the course of the day and, have a hearty appetite for the evening, but you don't need to be saving up tons of calories for later because, again, it likely will backfire. Tip number 2 kind of dovetails with tip number 1. Let's say you do eat breakfast and you do eat lunch and you're going to be going out for dinner later, and it's like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and dinner's not till 7 or 8. You're really starting to get hungry. It's actually a very good idea to have a light snack that has a little bit of protein and vegetables. So something like celery with peanut butter, or a handful of nuts with like some bell pepper slices, a slice of cheese with some carrots. Also, this helps because after the meal, if you have a little bit of fiber in your stomach prior to eating, it can help mitigate post-meal blood sugars. Stephanie's going to allude to this a little bit later in another tip. So tip number 2 would be, if there's going to be a gap between lunch and this dining out later, make sure you have a little snack a couple hours beforehand.
Good stuff. All right. Next up is to drink some water with fresh lemon in it before eating. Chances are most restaurants have this. Pretty much every restaurant I've been at, you can ask for the lemon slice in your water and you want to squeeze it into the water. Don't just let it sit there. This actually has been found to help with digestion, and it's the citric acid in the lemon juice that has been researched to find that it helps boost gastric acid secretion, and that enables your body to break down and digest food better. So certainly it's going to be healthier if you're digesting what you're eating. Let's go on to number 4 is to think about how you would like to feel after the meal. Talk to yourself an hour ahead of time or a couple hours. So before ordering or putting something on your plate, think, is eating this going to make me feel the way I want to feel? And picture yourself, like I said, 2 hours after the meal, feeling good and being happy because you ate what you wanted to eat. So when you think about that, it just might help you order something more appropriately, or even thinking that way throughout the meal, it might help you avoid overeating. So talk to your forward self. All right, and number 5 is the dreaded bread, right? Ask for no bread or chips if they bring it to the table. If some people at the table might want that, maybe you can ask them to just keep it away from you so you're not as tempted to eat it. Those chips, before you know it, you could start eating and people are talking, you're not paying attention, and you could go through a whole bowl of chips. So at least if you don't have them on the table or move them farther away from you, it will definitely be a better option. Number 6 6, now this might be obvious, but starting with fresh vegetables like a salad or some soup, that is going to make sure that you're getting some good nutrients in. It's also good for blood sugar, they found, when you start off with a vegetable. That helps your blood sugar if you eat some carbs later on. But you want to think about feeding your cells right off the bat, make sure you're getting some nutrients in, and if that can also help with the craving feelings caused by the starchy or sweeter appetizers that are so common these days.
Let's move on to tip number 7, which has to do with buffets. So if you're going to a buffet, our suggestion, our strategy, is to look over the buffet before putting food on your plate. So just peruse the buffet, take a look around, and take small portions to begin with of things that you really want to eat. Also seeking out potentially some sort of vegetables that can take up part of the plate. But keep the portion a little bit smaller to begin with, knowing that you can always go back if you're still hungry. But if you start with larger amounts on your plate, you're more likely to just eat everything. And then it's kind of like at buffets, you sort of have this compulsion to go back. So even if you're full, so start with smaller portions, and then you can choose to go back if you're still not quite full enough. Maybe just take a little bit more, and then it'll save you from overeating or eating too much. Okay, moving on to tip number 8. Take a couple of deep breaths before eating. This really sets your body up for good digestion, and digestion works best when the body's in a relaxed state. This is an amazing tip to use anytime you eat. We always encourage our clients to do this. Just breathe in deeply through your nose and out through your mouth 2 or 3 times. Just kind of sets you up for taking a slower approach to the meal. Take some breaks, put your fork down. Don't forget, you can put your fork down, breathe deeply a couple of times, chew your food. Just pay attention to your hunger level. We know it's more difficult when you're dining out and eating with friends, but we still want you to sort of stay in tune. And sort of that mindful breathing, at least right before you eat, can tune you into that and set yourself up for a better eating experience. Tip number 9, ask for a take-home box before you eat. So that means that when your food comes, you can kind of figure out what would be an appropriate portion size for you, and then you can put the rest in a box and sort of set it aside. This is a good tip, especially if you find that you have a hard time stopping and you're like, oh my God, I always end up overeating at a restaurant. You can kind of divide and conquer and just take a portion and automatically put it away before you even start eating. We love this because it just becomes your leftovers the next day for lunch. That's like one of my favorite things about eating out is I know I'm going to have a nice lunch the next day. Ask for a take-home box before you eat. Tip number 9.
All right, number 10, chew your food. Chewing your food is the most important first step in digestion. It not only helps with digestion, which is so good, but when you're chewing enough, and you want to chew to make sure that the food is broken down into mush, but that really helps you to minimize overeating. So try paying attention to how much you're really chewing your food. All right, now let's move on to number 11. If you're dining out with people, eating is a social thing. If you're dining out with people or significant other or whoever else it is, take a step back for a moment and just enjoy the company part of the meal. You want to enjoy the company and the conversation and appreciate being there with them rather than making it all about the food. Feel gratitude for the food for sure, but also the company. And so when you make it about the company more than the food, you might be able to eat a little less or make sure that you're eating something healthy. Does that make sense? Now let's move on to the final and most important, and this is easier said than done, but do not overeat. All right, so we know this is tricky to accomplish when dining out, but do the very best you can. Go back and practice the first 11 steps that we were talking about, including especially eating slowly and thinking about how you want to feel after the meal. And also, hey, isn't it awesome when you have leftovers in your fridge the next day? So think about having those yummy leftovers, and then that will make you more likely to maybe not feel like you have to clean your plate. All right, so next time you're dining out, review this video before you go, and that will help you have a much more successful dining out experience. And listen, if you've been on and off diets and you find yourself going off track often, but you're ready to make some more permanent changes, you need to know how to handle these special situations, including dining out, but also how to handle the things that life is throwing at you, as we know it often does. There's so many diet programs out there, and there's not one that's perfect for everyone. But if you'd like our help in making changes and learning how to handle staying on track in a not so perfect world, our Simply Nourished program is something you should definitely take a look at. It's a 90-day program, and we are there to support you and problem solve and prevent certain situations that may have thrown you off track in the past. If that's something that you're looking for, we'll put a link below so you can check it out. But as always, we just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. We hope it's helpful. We put out videos every Thursday, so make sure to subscribe and like this video, and stay tuned for our next video on how to live healthier after 50.